From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, will a win-now mindset put FSU in danger of merely being a good team and no longer a good program? The portal has mostly closed for the Noles, the one important name that has decided to stick around, and apparently 30 minutes of helping your team out is worse than not trying at all. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it. Vitamins, nutrients, energy. Clinically tested to help out the mood, help out the focus, help out the immune response, help out the workouts, everybody. There's actually a thread on the locker room, Corey Clark, which is an off-topic forum on the warchant.com message board where somebody was like, does this stuff really work? And then like 3 people hopped in there like, yeah, it's got a whole bunch of caffeine in it, man. It's going to do good for you. So I'm like, shout out to those people. Thanks for getting involved.
It boosts you up. It definitely does. Actually, Stephanie and I were talking about it with some friends the other night because we were talking about some of the sponsorships that Warchant has, and that was one that came up because it's like, yeah, man, it might have been in the topic of a hangover, but it works for that too. It works for anything you need it for.
Look at that. Warchant, your brand synonymous. Good partnerships. If you want to build your business, shout out your boy, Aslan at warchant.com. We'll see what we can do for you, folks. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Come home, subscribe. Get all the access over at warchant.com. Premium recruiting board, war rooms, Corey's columns, Ira's insight. Again, all the recruiting stuff. Jeff and Tom, Gene Williams getting you hooked up, everybody. And you can obviously read everybody's forums. You can't get involved in the Florida forums or the Miami. You can't reply to the threads, but you can hop in there and see what they're complaining about and kind of laugh and take some screenshots and enjoy that stuff. Good to be back from the holiday break, although another holiday looms here for us. It's a Christmas break. I'll be more specific for some people that prefer that. I'm going to try to tone down any sort of enthusiasm I have for my life, Corey. Apparently one of my buddies in the group chat said that I humble bragged on our last show about getting gifts from my girlfriend. So I apologize if I sounded happy, everybody. I'll try to tone it down.
I'll be honest, you were due, though. It's been when's the last time you got Christmas presents from a girlfriend?
Jeez, 6 years ago?
Yeah, and before that?
I mean, come on. Let's focus on Florida State.
Oh, sorry.
athletics.
I'm just saying that's not a humble brag. It's you like enjoying your life. That's good stuff. You should revel in it and let us hear about it more.
There we go. All right, yeah, I'll try to keep you guys posted on that. We're going to keep you posted on everything's Florida State. So apparently the portal closed on, Saturday or Sunday, but there's that weird bit of lag where you just got to get your stuff to the university and file your paperwork, and it take a day or so to process. So I thought we were out the woods, but then I saw D.D. Holmes enter the transfer portal. I assume, though, that's going to be the last of the bunch, at least underclassmen-wise, because if you're an upperclassman, you can still transfer as a grad transfer, but it sounds like that's probably a wrap for Florida State in the departures department. He becomes, let me read Ira's great story here, 6 of their 9 defensive ends they had from 24 now are gone. I guess 7 if you count Sione. Not too concerned, but I don't want to poo-poo these sort of things. There was really nothing else to add to that, but that's like maybe the only newsy kind of thing that occurred since we last talked. So I felt like I need to maybe bring that up, Corey. I did want to ask you about the column that you wrote after we recorded our last podcast, which was like I don't want to even say bury the lead. I never brought up the lead, but last time we spoke, obviously all the big offensive line additions that kind of come to fruition. Micah Pettis from Ole Miss, your starting left tackle, you assume. Luke Pettibon, your starting center that we assume. And then you wrote a great column for warchant.com titled Seminoles clearly in must-win now mode with recent offensive line additions. So I don't want to ask you, like, what's happened to make you to think that, because it's obviously these offensive line additions. But is it the caliber? Is it the number of guys they've gone after? Where did you think they were going to be entering late December? Is this a surprise to you that they are in this mode?
Yeah, I was talking to Ira about it because he brought up, there were some people on the message boards, not necessarily complaining maybe, but pointing out the fact that, all these guys are one-year rentals. And so you're going to have to do this all again next year. If you don't like the guys that are coming up through the system, your own system, you have to go and just recruit 4 or 5 or 6 more guys out of the portal again next year. That's not ideal. You don't want to have to keep reshuffling your entire starting offensive line every year. But when you look at this offensive line, the projected offensive line that Florida State's going to have in 2025, it's 5 fifth-year seniors or 4, they're all seniors. They're all done with eligibility. So if it is Richie Leonard and the 4 new transfers, they're all and they play. Let's say they play every game. It works out perfectly. Well, they're done. You have to get a brand new and a completely brand spanking new offensive line for 2026. That's not ideal. That's not what you necessarily want. But the fact that they went and got the Ole Miss kid, they went and got another starter from Vanderbilt, another SEC starter, a 2-year starter at Wake Forest. I mean, these guys probably, I don't know if they're millions upon millions of dollars, but they're probably not cheap. They were wanted by other schools. But, yeah, I think that shows exactly like this. It's not – I mean, of course, every team wants to win now. You know what I mean? Like, that's a crazy – the Falcons want to win now. But it's so important to have a good season in 2025. Not just because it's college football and you want your team to be good, but because coming off such a disaster, it is imperative you're much, much improved. And obviously the biggest weakness on this team in 2024 was the offensive line in particular, although you could spread that across the board. The fact that they got a brand new offensive line, it just it reaffirms what we already knew, that Mike Norvell understands the impetus to get this right and to get this right quickly. There is not a lot of time to just kind of jog into a run. You need to sprint into getting yourself a good team, starting out sprinting, and I feel like that's what they did. I think it's pretty obvious that they're not worried about the long term. I mean, they are, right? Everybody wants to be good forever, but the short term has to be fixed immediately. And when you have basically 5 brand new starters on your offensive line, all that will be gone in a year, that just re-emphasizes that point.
Florida State remains like a Tier 1 program.
I think they're 6th in the transfer portal rankings too, right? I think.
I don't have that
7?
in front of me. I can pull.
They
that
were
up.
at least on Sunday when I looked. I know A&M got the Concepcion kid from NC State.
Did they?
So maybe they bumped up in front of Florida State if they weren't there already. But yeah, Florida State's top 10.
Currently, they're currently 8th right now. Yes, that is top 10. We'll take it.
Not bad, gang. Not bad. And they're not done. They're clearly not done. They're hosting more people this weekend and are going to continue to host people, I assume.
Yeah, and I think. I mean, everybody is having to deal with this, but this factors in the amount of guys you're bringing in and the guys that you're losing when they do these rankings. And they've got Florida State with 21 guys transferring out, but it counts like significant amounts of walk-ons. So, but everybody is dealing with the same grading scale, but still, top 10, nothing to sneeze at here. You did mention, 5 times you said that Mike Norvell and company got the message that the football team must be much, 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 much better. So I appreciate you doing that. So Florida State being a Tier 1 program here, Corey, the team did not perform obviously like that. I mean, what is a unique thing, though, that's going to continue to differentiate Florida State in this weird kind of environment that we're in now, Corey? Because there's 12 spots up for a playoff now. So when it was a 4-team playoff, when it was just the BCS, there was probably only legitimately, 10 programs out there in the country that felt like they had a shot at this. Winning the national title. I guess now it's not even so much do we feel like we have a shot at winning the national title. It's we feel like we can win the Big 12 this year, right? Like we can be that team. We can be that Arizona State team this year. We can win our conference. We can win the Sun Belt. We can win the AAC, and we can get into the playoff. How many teams now are in win now mode, do you think, similar to Florida State? And if not that number, like what is going to be the thing that differentiates Florida State's tack from here on out versus all these other teams that are trying to pretty much do what Florida State is doing right now, which is replenishing their entire roster?
Yeah, I just think the difference is the lake you're fishing from. Florida State is bigger, and I think it's better stocked. You know me, Aslan. I grew up on the lake. I'm a fisherman. That's all you and I talk about off the mics.
In our group chat with Odell.
Yeah, it's just talking about where the pikes are biting. Is pike a fish?
That's right, they are.
Yeah, buddy. I act like I don't know. Of course I know. I got him hanging up all over my house. But yeah, so I think like Florida State, thanks to Bobby Bowden, Mickey Andrews, Deion Sanders, sorry folks, guys like that, the history and tradition of this school is unlike most. And it is still a name that resonates. It's just like even if North Carolina in basketball or Duke or Kentucky or whoever has a down year in basketball, they'll still be on people's radars as long as they're competitive financially. And I think at least for now, we'll see when the new TV contracts, what that ends up doing and what that ends up looking like. We'll see what the House bill, if and when it gets passed, what that looks like. But for now, Florida State is very competitive with – I mean, what are you trying to do, man? You're just trying to be top 15, right?
Yeah.
If you're top 15, you got a chance. And Florida State absolutely is one of the 15 best programs in the country and has been for decades upon decades. They have ups and downs. The down was way too down this year. But take a step back. Think about a football fan in Des Moines, Iowa, and if they start listing the best football teams in the United States over their lifetimes, Florida State comes out of the mouth very quickly. It's still there. It still resonates. The 13-0 season last year helped, but it still resonates. So I think that's the advantage you have, and as long as you're competitive, you're going to be able to get guys. I don't think it's like Texas Tech. Like Texas Tech, I think, is number one right now in the portal rankings. That's out of nowhere. That's clearly them deciding we are just going to buy everyone. Mm-hmm. We're going to buy as many guys as we can because Texas Tech has no history other than, Byron Hanspard and Michael Crabtree and Mike Lynch. Mike Lynch. Is it Mike Lynch? Am I the coach?
Cliff Kingsbury?
No, the Lynch.
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach. Golly, I knew
Patrick
I wasn't saying that right.
Patrick Mahomes is decent, but
yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, he played there, right? He was pretty good. So, but I mean, they've never won anything of note in our lifetimes,
correct,
even with those players. But they're number one in the portal right now. They're all in. They're going to try to do what Ole Miss has done. A historically irrelevant program trying to break through the wall and become relevant. Ole Miss still misses the playoffs because that's what Ole Miss has always done. But Texas Tech is going to try to go that route. We'll see if it works for them. But they have to go above and beyond to even get in the ring with the Florida States and Georgias and Ohio States and Floridas of the world. So I don't know. I just think that when you look at this, you know that Florida State's invested, man. They've proven it every year, even though we talk probably too much about their finances and how they're behind other schools, because they are. But it doesn't keep them from spending money. And they've always spent money. When Jimbo was here, they spent a ton of money on assistant coaches. Now they're spending a ton of money on assistant coaches. They're spending a ton of money on their roster. The drive is there. The want is there. And as long as it's there and there's not empathy, then I think Florida State will always have a chance to have a really good season.
Apathy or empathy?
Apathy, yeah, not empathy. Golly, I'm all over the place. Empathy, too. We all need empathy.
We do, man.
We all need empathy, and we don't need apathy. You don't want to be apathetic. You want to be empathetic. That's just a little saying you can use to ring in the new year. But I think that Florida State is always going to be involved and invested. And when you are, you're always going to have a chance. Now, these 6 weeks that we're in the midst of are the most important 6 weeks of the season because you're building a roster. They built a coaching staff, and we think it's pretty good. We definitely think it's better than it was. And then they've also built a roster that I can't even fathom that it could end up being worse. So they've made improvements. It's just a matter of how big improvements they are. But I'm always going to be under the belief, and maybe it's because I just grew up with the program and I've been going to games for 40 years now, that they are going to be capable of getting themselves in contention to play for a national championship every offseason for the foreseeable future.
Sure hope so, man. Again, yeah, as did say, the portal is, quote unquote closed, but again, that's for teams that their season ended more than 5 days prior to it closing. These teams that played in bowl games, Miami, Iowa State, those guys had 5 days from the end of their season to enter the portal. So this thing is going to still be open for the next month.
So is that what
it
is? It's 5 days after bowl games?
5 days after your season ends, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So
yeah, there's going to be more people that are entering it because there's still – are there bowls today?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of bowls on Saturday, so there's a lot of players off those teams that are probably going to be entering here soon. Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into the Miami part of this because I want to talk about that after we come back from a break later on the program, Corey, but – they chased what they chased this past season. They fell up well short of their intended goal or whatever. But back to I was thinking about programs versus teams, and this is probably a repackaged idea that will we've talked about and we'll talk about in future shows. And maybe this is me kind of doing like a mea culpa or admitting I was wrong about just how sustainable you can build a winner when it comes to the transfer portal. Because I do wonder, there's a difference now, I think, between top programs in the country and top teams in the country. And the Florida State brand, I mean, keeps you in that contention to be one of the programs. But I don't know right now if we can say that, because I think there's probably only maybe 4 programs, because the rules changed.
Right?
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like the rules change here in terms of NIL, of the transfer portal, and then obviously the 12-team playoff. So, had this all happened in 2014, Florida State was probably well positioned to remain a solid program. But this is all happening with all the crazy things that are moving around right now, and where Florida State has kind of landed here, where I just like Texas, Georgia, like it feels like they're at a place now where it's hard to imagine they're going to take huge steps back. Everybody else, we're in this kind of midfield in F1 where we're going to be Michigan, right? You hope you can win a national title, then you might take a step back the next year, but you don't want to drop to where like Florida State dropped. Do you think, as much as they're trying to be in win now mode, there was a conscientious discussion, we would hope or imagine or assume, that was done either between Michael Alford and Battle's End with Norvell about, all right, we got to get this thing fixed and we got to get it fixed right, but also how do we build for a sustained run? Back to the point about people on the message boards maybe being a little bit anxious that a lot of these pieces that are being brought in are one-year flyers, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes to the high school recruiting. And again, I'm not trying to punt this question down the road. We have to see what happens with the revenue sharing, because if there's a straight-up salary cap for your roster, essentially, above-board salary cap, then everything changes. Coaching salaries change. The money you can pay recruits, high school recruits I'm talking about, changes. Because it's not efficient to pay a 4-star 18-year-old linebacker the same money you would pay an all-conference linebacker from Rice. Because, it's just not efficient. That linebacker isn't going to play for you the next year, probably, and it's a waste of money to spend that kind. Right now it's not, because there's no rails. There's no guardrails. So I think they absolutely have made it clear. I would hope they've made it clear, and I think by some of these hires it's been made clear that they have to be better at high school recruiting. They have to. You have to get guys, especially on the offensive line, but you have to get guys in here that want to be here, that want to be here, that are also good. Like, not guys that you think are good players, good guys that can play immediately. They have not done a great job of that since they've been here. That is probably, I mean, that's the biggest gripe, right? I mean, there's not a lot of guys that are Mike Norvell recruits that have come through this system and been stars or even competent, honestly. Yeah. If you look at the percentage of the recruiting classes, it's not a good percentage. There's been some starters, but how many stars? Azarie? Is that right? Josh Farmer? Yeah. And are they stars? I mean, they were neither Peyton, one of them were all conference.
Yeah, Peyton to a certain degree, but then, kind of, I mean, he was newcomer of the year, but
yeah,
didn't sustain that.
So that I still think that's kind of how you have to sustain it, but when you take such a dip, you don't have the time to put you have to do what they've done. You have to go get good players, immediately good players that can help you now. You have to be helped now. But, yeah, I also think there has to be an eye towards the future, so you aren't having to do this every year. You don't just scramble, because sometimes you can miss. Like, when you're around a guy for 2 years, you know if he can play or not. You know if he's going to be an NFL player, if he's really good. If you just go every December and just like, I want that guy, I hope they're good, that's just not how I don't know that that's how you sustain success. We'll see, man. I think Florida State was a great example of this past year, and I know you just mentioned them before the break. Let's see what Miami is next year, because they went all in, and it did not end up well for them. It did not end up they lose 3 of their last 4 games, and where they were 10-0 and then ended up 9-0 ended up 10-3, and I don't know if they feel like that was money well spent or not. But let's see, though. Let's see if they can repeat it. I know they've recruited better than Florida State. Let's see if that manifests itself with some of their own guys making plays instead of other teams' players. So I don't know, man. It's all a guess. It's all a guess, man. This sport is changing so quickly. I I can't even imagine how many dumb things I've said over the last 3 years in hindsight. Because who knew this was what it was going to be, man? We just saw, and we'll talk about it after the break. I actually wrote a column about this, too. We saw a Heisman finalist-ish. Did Cam Ward – he finished fourth.
He was there, though.
He was there, yeah. We saw a Heisman finalist basically stop playing at halftime of a bowl game. And it's like that. Who would have thought 10 years ago or 8 years ago if you'd have said, do you think that'll be kind of something that'll ever happen? A team's quarterback will play a half and then healthy just stop playing in a 3-point game? You think he'll just be on the sidelines in full uniform with a minute to go, with all his team needs is a field goal, just sitting there and watch this backup try to do it? Like, we would have never even fathomed that. So this sport keeps changing so quickly, it's hard to predict. I do know they need to recruit high schools better than they've been. And I don't mean like go get the number 6 class. That would be great. Go get the number 2. Go get the number 1 class. Whatever. Just evaluate better, man. Bring some people into this program that can actually play in a year or two. Not guys that are just projects that never pan out. So that's what the goal has to be. And I don't know if it means somebody else does the evaluating. I mean, they've got half a new coaching staff, so you hope they evaluate better. But I think that's what has to change. Just evaluate who you're bringing in. I don't care if they have – I mean, I'd like them to have 5 stars or 4 stars. But if they're end up being good players, go get them. There's a lot of them out there. Go find some.
Yeah. I think I mean, to the point, I think I really underestimate – I don't want to say totally underestimate. Like I just thought it's really hard to stack top 3, top 5 high school recruiting classes. I know Jimbo did it, but it's really hard to do that. So that's why I really embrace the transfer portal.
Yeah.
But, in 2021 is when they announced they're going to go from 4 teams to 12 teams. So, if you did not have those high school recruiting classes in your back pocket the way that like Georgia and Alabama did, you're like, all right, we're going to go to the transfer portal to try to be ready for when this 12-team kind of reality starts. Well, then now when these, the next rule change, to your point, is going to be the house settlement. Well, that's going to affect, obviously, the way that you can recruit and how you're going to recruit and where you're going to divert resources. So, like, it would be nice that if you had stacked classes of high school talent to lean on as opposed to, just kind of backfilling everything, thinking, all right, like we have to look at this kind of like a season at a time. Not even so much like we're just going to create a roster for now, but it's these rules are going to keep changing. The only way to be able to be totally bulletproof to all this is to stack top 3 classes on top of each other. Well, if you can't do that, if you can't be one of those teams, if you can't be Oregon, if you can't be Ohio State, if you can't be Texas, if you can't be Georgia, well, then you have to do it through the portal. And then there's this 1% of 1% teams, which Florida State has I think the potential is what we're trying to get to of regaining that status. But otherwise, like we're right now, Florida State's not all that different from Arizona State probably. Arizona State's probably going to lose some of their talented guys. I know their quarterback's really young, but I'm sure they're going to lose a lot of their productive players, and they're going to jump back in the portal and try to fix this as quickly as they possibly can. You just got to hope that this coaching staff, what they've been through, Malzahn in hand, and how much they've worked together, they know what they need and they found it. Because again, as these better teams play these later bowl games, Corey, some names drop in this portal, and you start thinking to yourself, man, I wish they might have not gone after player X because they could have maybe been in the mix for this guy right now. But when you find yourself at 2-10, you don't have that kind of luxury.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. It's a fair point. It's the one you brought up about brand versus program. Because if you want to judge a program based on like the last 10 years, all right, well, yeah, Florida State's had 2 undefeated seasons in those. They've also had 3 losing seasons. They've had a 2-10 season. If you're judging just on recency, then yeah, Florida State isn't one of the 10 best programs. But they're still a very, very, very important, recognizable, iconic brand.
I think we've had 5 losing seasons, bud.
Whatever, 6 and 7, that doesn't count.
Right.
But I think that like when you're thinking about the future, Florida State, like yes, there's Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, maybe Alabama, probably, but we don't
Oregon,
know for
like
sure.
Oregon's the power
Oregon
in the
too,
West
yeah,
now,
but they're the West power.
Yeah.
So you've got like 5, like. I feel like every year those 5 are going to be competing. Maybe take Alabama out because we don't know what he's going to do there. But you've got 4 to 5 automatics, it feels like. Every year they're going to be in the hunt.
Because of their high school recruiting or because –
Yes, because they have the money to spend on the incredible portal guys, the Heisman-type portal guys. So I think that they're always going to be in the mix. But when you think about everybody else, man, there's still 8 other playoff spots. And you think about this season, man, and I'm not going to just bring up Indiana and Ole Miss or Indiana and Arizona State and SMU. And again, I just want to point out, like, how cool is it, in my opinion, one of the benefits of the new 12-team playoff structure is that teams like Arizona State feel relevant again. Yeah. Indiana, for the first time ever, was relevant for a football season. And SMU, relevant for the first time since the governor of Texas was sending Mustangs to the, like, Mustang the car, Ford Mustangs, to the football. Oh, no, I guess it was Corvettes, probably. I think that Eric Dickerson.
Trans Am. It was a Trans Am.
It was Trans Am, okay. Yeah. Since they got the death penalty for their violations, SMU mattered again in football. That's cool, and that should be celebrated. That's the benefit of this sport. That's the benefit of the 12 teams. It's like Ole Miss had a chance to get in the playoff. Colorado, if they don't lose to Kansas, probably goes to the playoff or is close. Miami, if they don't blow it at the end, is in the playoff. When was the last time they were relevant? No. It gives all these different schools and fan bases a real chance to feel and be relevant, and that's really good for the sport. And again, I'm not relitigating or I'm not going back to this topic. I just want to say that is my biggest problem with how ESPN handled it. Is why don't we just celebrate how cool it is that Indiana, Arizona State, and SMU were in the playoff? A team like Ole Miss that's never won anything had a chance to be in the playoff. South Carolina was one of the last teams out. Like, their fans actually cared in November. Again, that's the beauty of the new 12-team playoff. And to the overarching point I'm trying to make, Florida State can absolutely be in that mix. They could be in that mix this year. You can't say they can't. No. Would I be surprised? Probably. But I wouldn't be stunned because Arizona State's about to play a playoff game, a quarterfinal game, by the way. Boise State is about to play a quarterfinal game. And if Boise State and Arizona State can do it, then yes, Florida State can get there. And they can get there quickly. It's a matter, like, there's the 4 or 5 that are always probably going to be perennial contenders. There's probably, I don't know, man.
Well, the thing about Penn State,
40,
like Penn
50?
State's been so solid. Like, yes. but when it's only 4 teams, like you have no shot,
no chance. Yeah. That's what I told you before the season. I said Penn State was an automatic.
I think you drafted
berth.
them. You might have drafted. I got to go back and listen. But when we did our playoff pick teams to draft, you're like, doesn't Penn State always go 10-2 every year? That'll make it.
Yeah, that's going to make it. They always lose to good teams. Yeah. They never lose to bad teams ever. Yeah. So that's a recipe to get in the playoff. And so, those 4, 5, 6 teams, whatever, are always going to be in contention. But there's 40 other teams. I don't know, man. It may be 80. I don't know. Like, Indiana just made it. Who would have thought Indiana? Like, maybe Vanderbilt can get there one day. Or Wake. That would be hard, but maybe. That's the beauty of this, is you just don't know. You just have no idea. But I do think that Florida State has a leg up on all these Johnny-come-latelys, the Ole Misses and the Texas Techs of the world, just because if they're willing to spend at the same rate, Florida State means more to high school players, their parents, their coaches, their family, than Ole Miss and Texas Tech and UCLA and go on down the line. So that's all. So I do think that Florida State is set up if the coaches are good, if they can develop and evaluate, then they're set up to have good enough teams to win 9 or 10 games in the ACC, and if you do that, you got a real chance.
You got a real chance of winning cash money on Thursday nights when you go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill and play bingo. If you don't feel like waiting for your opportunity to win money, why not win bragging rights? Trivia night, 7 p.m. Tuesday nights at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Although I don't know, with New Year's Eve, maybe I should have waited for that read until next week. But every day of the week is always an awesome time at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., only $8.99. Comes with a side dish of your choice, the entree as well, obviously. Billiards, darts, ice-cold drinks, beautiful human beings, vivid television screens all over the place, playing your favorite team. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, 2475 Appalachia Parkway.
And they will be open on New Year's Eve with champagne. If people want to go there and ring in the new year that way, do it. I've never been there for New Year's Eve. Usually, quite honestly, I'm at a football game or coming back from a football game. But this year, if you guys weren't paying attention, Florida State did not qualify for a bowl. So I'm free, but I'm up in Atlanta, so I can't be there anyway. But I'm sure it'll be an awesome time. Champagne for everyone.
Corey said it. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, awesome time. CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it, sip the juice. I
wanted to say something real quick.
Please.
We talked about Florida State being out of the woods. I think D.D. Holmes, we talked about him being the guy that entered the portal on Sunday, maybe Saturday. It became official on Sunday, or it was publicized on Sunday. That means, for what we think, at least through the spring, Brock Glenn is still here.
Good point. Very good point.
I don't think that's a non-important thing.
It's not. People keep asking, we're all in with Castellanos. What are we going to do if he gets hurt? And I feel like the Gus offense, Sean White is a guy, I think it might be 2016 Auburn
Sean
highlights.
White, the snowboarder you're talking about.
Yes, the flying tomato.
Right.
Sean White, 2016 Auburn highlights, if you're really, really super online and into watching film, a little bit more athletic than Brock, but I think Brock is a better thrower of the football. So all that to say, yes, Castellanos is the presumptive starter here, but if he were to go down for 1 week, 2 weeks, I think Brock is more than a adequate fill-in. And who knows, man, there might be part of this offense that just clicks better with Brock, maybe a better offensive line and a run game, makes him even a more appealing draw further into the season or something like that. But great point, Corbin.
Yeah, and also similar skill sets with Castellanos. Not an incredible runner, not incredible passer. A good runner. He's not as elite athletically as Castellanos. We all understand that. Brock Glenn was not recruited by Florida State as a running back / slot receiver. He's not that athletic, but he's plenty athletic for that offense to. If you leave him, if you go with the running back and he pulls it, he can hit you for a 50-yard run. He is fast. He is athletic, and he also has some experience. And I just think that's good, that it's nice to have a backup with experience. Now, it's not a backup with a lot of positive experience, but it is a guy that's been through some wars, and that's a nice – I think Brock Glenn – I'm trying to think how to say this. I feel like Brock Glenn with Gus Malzahn's offense can win as many or more games than he loses. Yeah. If the offense is doing it. If he's got a good running game and they're able to hit some shots downfield and the offensive line is much better, I think Brock Glenn could turn into – I'm not going to sit here and say he's a star. I think he could turn into a competent, capable quarterback. And that's not bad to have as a second option, as opposed to what? Trevor Jackson. Could be Trevor Jackson too, by the way. Man. I shouldn't sleep on that at all. It absolutely could be Trevor Jackson. That is absolutely a storyline we will be watching and paying attention to in the spring, because there is a chance one of those guys does leave after the spring. But I think that's a very, very important race for second-string quarterback. And then I also think the kid coming in, he's an athletic kid, so he has that quarterback. So
Kevin Sperry.
Yeah, that'll be a fun competition to watch. We know who the presumptive starter is, but it's nice to have a guy like Brock Glenn that has played some for you, and you know he's athletic enough to run that offense and be at least competent in it, probably.
Yeah. The Trevor Jackson thing for sure. That's going to be third string quarterback. You kind of get lost in the weeds when we talk about spring football. But that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on to see if he can.
I also trust that if Gus Malzahn, I think Gus Malzahn with Trevor Jackson, let's say that both guys go down, get hurt, or they're both not very good. Yeah. I think even if Trevor Jackson has some flaws and some warts, I think Gus Malzahn would figure out a way to utilize his strengths to where they wouldn't average 15 points and 260 yards a game. You know what I mean?
I believe
he would figure out a way. And that, as I'm going to say that, I'm not trying to take a shot at Mike Norvell, but I absolutely just took a shot at Mike Norvell because his offense this year was a train wreck. And I don't think Gus Malzahn, I think week 5 might have been like, you know what? That guy's my quarterback. We can't do anything, Mike. Talking to Norvell. We can't throw it well. We can't protect. Our running backs don't break tackles. I need something dynamic on this team somewhere. That kid might be dynamic enough. What do we have to lose? Let's give him a shot. And I just can guarantee you the offense would have been better. The Gus Malzahn offense with Trevor Jackson would have been better because it couldn't have been worse than a Mike Norvell offense with any of the guys he ran out there on in 2024. So just saying, Malzahn has made it work with less quarterbacks. He got to a national championship game with a guy that could barely throw the football. Yeah. It was a minute away. It was 11 seconds from winning the national championship. So I got faith that they're going to find a guy that can move that offense, and he's got options.
So I'm the anti guy here when it comes to paying the players. Corey's in favor of it. I know most of you are. I'm just haven't really wrapped my mind around it enough here. And it's the Wild West, and there's really no rules, and players can leave whenever they want. And we always would talk about, there's certain things you could not do, Corey, as like a coach. You couldn't, rescind a scholarship offer or throw a kid under the bus because that's going to affect your recruiting down the line. I wonder, how much planning they do with these guys, again, the portal right now. Again, as these bowl games keep ending, more players are going to enter that, you weren't going to be 100% sure they were going to be available. Could you wait? Did you have that luxury to wait and be picky and selective? I wonder how bad of a look it would be if you kind of cut bait on a guy that you signed, 2 weeks ago. When I see a guy like this, and listen, I'm going to protect Thomas Castellanos because it's fun to irk people sometimes. But the South Dakota State quarterback, Mark Gronowski, entered the portal on Sunday. Now, this guy he runs for 500 yards a year and throws for over 2,500 yards per season, over 20 touchdowns. That's a guy that's really enticing to me. I wonder, if you could find a way to get him on your roster. I wonder how many teams out there maybe are thanking themselves that this guy is now available. I'm I like Castellanos, but I like this kid almost more. But there's certain fits. His coach has left to go to Washington State, so maybe he ends up there. He's kind of pulling a Cam Ward thing here, where he's talking about, the NFL is definitely an option, but if there's something out there that makes sense for me and my family, I'll look into it. He's from Naperville, which is outside Chicago, so maybe Northwestern will bring him in to compete against a guy from SMU. But it's going to be interesting to see who else they can kind of maybe add here. My thing was I just didn't think players that were on these higher achieving teams, they're not going to leave their programs unless their coach leaves. And Sark's not leaving, Kirby's not leaving, Dan Lanning is not leaving, Ryan Day, I don't know, maybe, who knows? James Franklin's not leaving, but there were some of these other programs that we don't think about, FCS level guys that have produced a lot that might now be available in the coming weeks that can also help Florida State when we think about things. They're also involved in the high school market. They are going to be probably lining up an official visit with four-star edge Zahir Mathis. He was originally committed to Ohio State, Corey, last month, pushed back his signing to February. So the February signing date might now also be a thing. Florida State, Michigan, UCLA in the mix for that young man. So Florida State going to be staying busy here. Michael Langston will have us covered on all that. Him and
because we think they're going to. I think they're going to get. They might double up how many portal guys they've got already. Again, I think it would be nice if they had some guidance on how many roster spots are actually going to be available. But I think they're going to double up or at least get a handful more guys. Look, the starting quarterback at Texas is not leaving. The starters at those schools are not leaving.
Well, Quinn Ewers might leave, right?
Well, yes, correct. I know I said that, and as soon as I said that, I'm like, well, that's dumb. But they are going to – all these playoff teams are going to lose multiple guys to the portal. It's just that's how it's going to be.
Will it be guys that got them to the playoff?
Correct.
Though, right?
That's the question, and probably not.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean – again, this isn't the problem with what Florida State did in the portal last year is they went and got backups that they were counting on to be starters. Right now, Florida State I still think they need a starter on the defensive line. Maybe a starter in the defensive backfield. I don't know. Maybe a starter at wideout. But I think they need some quality depth, and you can go get some quality depth from these schools. And I say quality depth like a guy that was a freshman that's leaving Alabama. As long as you're not counting on him to be your starter, and maybe you're surprised that he ends up being really good. That happens all the time. The problem with this last portal class is that they took guys that hadn't done a whole lot at the college level and assumed or projected that they would, and they didn't. But I don't think they need a ton of that. I think they've addressed a lot of needs, especially on the offensive line, where they can go get some guys that maybe have a couple of years of eligibility and take a chance on a right now a backup guard from Ohio State or a backup linebacker from Ohio State or a backup wideout from Oregon. And not assuming they're going to be a starter, but at least you're filling out your roster with some guys that you think have some real potential. But the problem this year is like I said, I'm going to repeat it for the third time because I'm an idiot. They took potential as starters. Now take potential as for what it is, which is potential. Bring some guys with potential on your team, but you're not counting on to be productive their first year, like a Jaylen Brown. I feel like a lot of people when Jaylen Brown signed thought, oh man, he might start. He's almost a 5-star wide receiver that was LSU. The only reason he couldn't get on the field was because he was behind Neighbors. And by the way, that LSU receiving crew last year, huh? Brian Thomas is better than Neighbors.
Yeah.
What's going on? And the Noles shut him down. And Jane Daniels pretty good too. That's crazy. But so we just thought,
really good, man.
he couldn't crack that lineup. That doesn't mean he's not very good. And I think he came to Florida State thinking he was going to play a ton. Well, that clearly didn't materialize. Maybe he ends up being a player, maybe he doesn't. But it's okay to take some of those guys as long as they're not the only guys you're taking. And clearly that's not the case. But it'll be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they got some playoff guys out of the portal. But I would be stunned if they got playoff guys that started. You know what I mean? I think that's a lot to ask. Speaking of, before we go, I did write a column. It's on Warchant right now. I did write about Cam Ward.
Okay, I want to ask you that.
Okay.
This is going to make me more unpopular than I already am. And I think I know where you stand. I haven't read your column yet, but judging by how you said the bizarre nature of the way that Pop-Tart Bowl game played out, I don't know. Maybe it was him chasing a record, and he decided to suit up for a half, which kind of maybe is not a very sportsman-like thing to do to break a record. But people have done weird things. Ask Mark Gastineau and what happened to his record as the sack king.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Part of me thought I had no problem with that. I would figure if I was a Florida, I think most Miami fans probably appreciated what he did. Like I can't see I'm envisioning, Corey, that it was kind of a. I don't know if Mara's like, what can you do for us? Can you do this? Cam's like, yes, no. And it's if some agreement was like, I'm going to give you, I'll play for a half. I don't know how anybody could have been angry about that. Because there's a guy from Iowa State, I think one of their senior safeties that actually went down in the first half. Like he got carted off the field.
Yeah.
And I know like Damian Martinez went down on one play and kind of got up and was walking off gingerly. Like, listen, that defense is horrendous. The problem in Miami is whether or not they're going to fire Lance Guidry and what they're going to do. That's the problem down there. But I thought, like, Cam Ward playing for a half, and I thought that was, like, admirable. And then apparently most of the internet did not.
And that's kind of what I wrote about is, like, I didn't really have a strong feeling one way or the other until the post-game press conference. That bothered me a lot. Why would Mario Cristobal basically no comment it? Why would he say no comment? Like, so do we think that Mario Cristobal knew before the game that Cam Ward was going to play the first half? And only the first half?
Yes.
100%, right? In fact, I'm so sure because early on in the first quarter, I was watching that game, Aslan, and I can't remember who the broadcast team was doing that game, but one of the broadcasters said, almost as an aside, like, I don't know how much longer Cam Ward's going to play in this one, but da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, wait, that's weird. What do you mean?
Oh, yeah.
So he said that.
It was
so
Tom Hart and Aaron Rodgers' brother, Jordan Rodgers.
Jordan Rodgers, right. And he talks to Aaron Rodgers as much as I do, right?
Yes.
And so when
that was a bizarre question. Yes, that was a very telling comment.
Right. So when he said that, I'm like, oh, they must know that he's not going to play the whole game.
And they
must have been
meeting.
told a production meeting. Somebody whispered it to him or flat out told him. So if that was the plan all along, why then would Mario Cristobal, when he's asked about it after the game, say I want to keep those conversations private. I'm not willing to comment on that. Okay, so now you make it look like you were against the decision. You were against that happening. You wanted him to play the whole game, and you're mad at him. So you just made him more of a pariah than he already looked as he stood there flipping a ball on the sideline, fully dressed out in uniform, healthy, with a minute to go, down by a point. And he could have been out there trying to lead his team to a win, and they keep showing him. And then after that, his head coach, like as I wrote in the column, I'm like, man, all Cristobal has to say is we agreed before the game that Cam Ward was going to play a half. He wanted to play one more half with his teammates. There was a chance he could break a record, which was cool. He got his 31 points. And in the second half, he told me he wanted to go back in the game, and I said no, because his future is more important than some stupid Pop-Tart. If Mario Cristobal does that, he gets the next Cam Ward probably. Instead, he throws him under the bus and basically says, I don't want to talk about it. So now Cam Ward becomes the face of everything that's wrong with modern-day college football. And I'm not saying he doesn't, it's not deserved, but he's not the problem. The problem is the setup. And it really, honestly, the problem with these bowl games is not the opt-outs. The problem is the portal. Like half these, Oklahoma had less than 50 scholarship players in their game because so many guys were in the portal or had graduated or were opting out. So that's the problem. But like the optics of it, Cristobal not backing his guy wholeheartday.
I didn't realize that part of it. That's weird because no follow-up question would have been critical, right? Like if Mario says what PR 101 should have coached him up to say, this was the agreement. We appreciate Cam going out there and laying it on the line for his team one last time.
Yeah.
Like I don't think anybody in that room would have been like.
And I also don't think anybody criticizing Cam Ward would have criticized him at all if he'd have done what Restrepo did before the game. Restrepo, the star receiver for Miami, tweeted out like 3 hours before the game. It's been great. Yeah. Spent an awesome time as a Cane. And didn't play. He opted out of the game and announced it 3 hours before the game. Yeah. Not one person criticized Restrepo for that. He went out, and he's not going to be nearly as high a pick as Cam Ward. And he didn't play in the game. So what's better, to not play at all or play for a half? I understand that. He played for a half. He got his team 31 points, man. But the problem is you're standing on the sideline in the second half for no reason. Like you're dressed out in full uniform watching the game, and we all know you're healthy. That's a horrible look. It's horrible for the optics. Does it matter? No. Are the NFL teams going to run from them? Absolutely not. It's not going to matter to them at all. But the way they played that out, and then for apparently Tim Reynolds from the AP and the 247 Miami guy both basically tweeted out the same thing. I don't know who told them this, but their wording was about the exact same. Like, Cam Ward did not opt out of the second half. Miami just wanted to get a good look at their backup quarterback. Yeah, man, whatever. That's nonsense. That's ridiculous. Yes, he did opt out of the second half. It's not like he was begging to play, and he's like, no, I want to see the Williams kid again. I got to see the Williams on this final drive. The kid threw the ball 5 times before the last drive, so they weren't interested in evaluating their backup quarterback. Cam Ward gave them a half. I wish he'd have given them the second half. I think that would have been much, because they would have been down without Cam Ward. They might have been down 34-6 at the half. Oh gosh, yeah. But it would have been fun to see him try to make it up in the final 30 minutes. If the injury risk is still the same, whether he plays the first half or the second half. But yeah, it's all about. I think it's just a bigger overarching point about the bowl system and how ridiculous it all is now. And I don't mean ridiculous as in like don't enjoy them, don't go watch them. Just don't put any stock or validity in the results because they don't matter. These aren't the teams. Like Cam Ward standing on the sideline, the best quarterback in the country, in my opinion, standing there watching. What's that kid's name that played the quarterback?
Becht or Emory Williams?
No, Williams. Yeah,
Emory Williams. Yeah.
Emory flippin' Williams have to go try to lead his team to a game-winning field goal when you've got the best quarterback in the country, who looked incredible in the first half, by the way, just standing there watching it. That is the absolute perfect illustration of how stupid bowl games are now. There is no reason to care about them at all. Now, it's cool if your team wins. I get it. And I'm saying this as a guy doing a podcast about a team that didn't make a bowl. But I think Exhibit A of how broken the bowl system is Orange Bowl 2023.
Yeah. Exhibit
B is the best quarterback in the country, fully healthy, standing on the sideline watching his team lose by a point. Yeah. And it's like, do we blame him? Like, do we blame Restrepo that he didn't play? As I point out in the column,
no,
did Verse didn't play?
If that defense can get a stop,
right? They got 41 points. Yeah, 41 points should be enough. Yeah. But I brought up Verse, Fisk, Keon. None of them played a half. Big cool if they had played at least a half, right?
I would have appreciated that.
They decided to just say, nope, we're not even going to the game. Good luck to all the worst players on the team as they get their teeth kicked in. Yeah. Cam Ward at least played a half. Now, did he play a half to break a record? Whatever it takes, man. He did play a half. He broke the record and continued to play. It's not like they just pulled him after that. Yeah. But anyway, the point being, it's not about Cam Ward. It's a bad look. I get it. It makes him look like he's a completely selfish player. And quite frankly, he might be, which is kind of what the current college football climate Foster's is very, very much selfish players. But don't blame him. He might be the poster child of it, but he didn't invent this. He didn't create this system. He's going to be probably a top 5 pick in the draft, unless he shatters both kneecaps and tears his UCL like Carson Beck did. Then maybe not. So I get him wanting to sit out. It just looks horrible when he's standing on the sideline. Restrepo, nobody said a peep about that guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the sidelines. He wasn't in full uniform on the sidelines. Cam Ward played a full half at a high level, then came out and just watched from the sidelines the rest of the game, and it looked awful. And then his coach absolutely did not have his back. And I just can't fathom that the same guy that threw his running back under the bus when he should have been taking a knee against Georgia Tech last year, and instead talks about how they preach holding on to the ball with 2 hands instead of just saying, well, I thought we should have taken a knee. That's not his fault. The same coach won't go out of his way to talk up the quarterback that saved his damn job. That's crazy to me. So I was more mad about that. When I saw Cristobal talk about that and not give real insight into the decision-making process there, that really bothered me. Unless he was completely upset with Cam Ward, was not a fan of it, somehow did not sign off on it, and did not want that to happen, did not want that to go down the way it went down, and he was very upset, and he was trying to keep himself from saying something he'd regret. But even then, have some moral backbone and don't let him play at all then.
Yeah.
If you're mad that he's only going to play a half, like furious that you won't even have his back in the post-game press conference when you're inevitably asked about it, then don't let him play at all. But you made him a pariah because you wouldn't just back him up and say, we appreciate everything he did, and I appreciate the 10 wins. And also, 41 points should be enough.
All right, I appreciate you doing that, Corey, for real, because I'm like, I needed 2 things explained to me. I needed the making fun of Cam Ward, dunking on him explained to me, which I think, you did that. I think Mario is more culpable in this than Cam Ward is. Explain to me, again, become even more unpopular than I already am, like Florida State fans piling on the ACC's poor bowl performance this season as like some sort of, referendum that we have to get out of this conference even more. Like, we finished last in the conference.
Yeah, the
we
team
didn't
that went
play
2
in the
and 10 in
bowl
that
game. Like,
conference,
what are we doing making fun of our conference being so bad in bowl games? And then this is going to be the straw that breaks it. Like, now we have to get out of the conference. This is going to make a court filing move maybe faster in our. That's another thing that I saw in the bits and pieces of social I hopped on this past week where I'm like, what are we all doing here?
It's not a great football conference. That's obvious. But as I just said, I get it. I don't really understand that thought process to make fun of the ACC as a Florida State fan when your team just went 2 and 10. Other than just to point out that, there's nothing really great about this conference. Clemson and nothing else. There's some decent teams. There's some okay teams. Nothing special, and all of them crap the bed when they had NC State. I mean, what a horrible loss that was. Boston College looked horrible against Nebraska. They none of them looked great. Miami, their star quarterback quit. They all
poor North Carolina, man.
Yeah,
Boy,
they were thrown into a snake pit against UConn, and they didn't. I don't even know who their quarterback was.
Criswell got hurt. Thanks for not even showing up. Belichick, leader of men.
Yeah,
bum.
There was extenuating circumstances for all these games, but at the end of the day, they're 1-9.
Yeah.
Syracuse, shout out to Syracuse.
Yeah, man.
They're holding it down, 10 wins. But again, that game doesn't matter. Like the Syracuse game, they played a team without a quarterback and without a coach. These games are they're a farce. So that's why I don't put much stock into I put more stock into the conference play during the regular season, obviously, than I do these bowl games. These are embarrassments. They're not embarrassments because, again, it's college football. It's better than watching, a 2020 on some husband murdering her wife. It's still fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable and entertaining, and it can be entertaining even when there's a bunch of backups playing or guys you haven't heard of.
I thought the Miami Iowa State, that was a fun game.
That was a great game, at least for a half. Yeah. And it's fine. I like the fact that there are bowls. We can keep the bowls. Let's just quit caring about them, like the results of them, because they don't tell us anything anymore. The playoffs are what tell us anything. Like Ole Miss, who's Ole Miss playing? Duke? I mean, who cares? Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, who cares? Half of Georgia Tech's best players their quarterback was there, but they lost their 2 best receivers. They're not even on the team anymore. Georgia beat Florida State by 60. Well, they didn't beat Florida State. So I hope we stop using any sort of narrative for using the bowl games as any sort of narrative. The ACC sucks just because the ACC sucks, not because they went 1-9 in bowl games. I mean, are two of those losses the playoffs?
Yeah, man.
That doesn't seem fair. Those weren't bowl games, so they're really 1-7 in bowls. Come on, let's go. But yeah, I think that moving forward, we're just going to keep. Hopefully, more and more people are going to realize, yeah, these are scrimmages. These are scrimmages, and it's a cool chance to see guys get a lot of opportunity they haven't gotten before. But other than that, like next year when Florida State is at a bowl, and guys, you're hearing it here first. This is the Wake Up Warchant guarantee.
Stone cold ice.
Stone cold luck. The
walk.
Noles are going to be in a bowl next year. Whatever bowl they're in, you're not going to see all the great players probably, but you're going to get to see some guys. It's still the uniform you cheer for. It's still you're going to hear the fight song and the war chant and all that. But it doesn't matter, and we understand that now, right? If you're not in the playoffs, none of this matters. Yeah. It's all just for money. It's all just for TV money, and so. That's why it's crazy that like Cam Ward became the villain when he actually did play half the game.
Yeah.
And
Damian Martinez too, man. Damian Martinez, that position. I mean, that's the originator, right? It was it McCaffrey the first guy that opted out?
Man, I think McCaffrey and Fournette did it the same year, and Dalvin didn't. I think Jabril Peppers honestly did too, and just acted like he was hurt. Legitimately, I absolutely think that's what happened. And then opting out became more of a thing after that. But and then I wanted to did Shedeur Sanders? Do people love that he played in that game? And Travis Hunter, I think it's great. I mean, but holy cow! Like the difference between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward never gets tackled much. He might get tackled twice a game. Every time I looked up, and granted I didn't watch a ton of that game. Every time I looked up, Shedeur Sanders was getting slammed to the ground like a rag doll. And Travis Hunter was playing 130 snaps again because that's just what he does. So that was, I mean, kudos to them, right?
Yes, man. Like that's what I didn't understand. Like making fun, like dunking on these guys. That I hope that if we ever find ourselves in that position again, as many guys will play. At least give me 30 minutes. Cool, thank you. Anything would help. Anything would help. You're part of a team. You want to play with them. That's better. Anything's better than zero. So
yeah,
or 63-3.
Well, right. Again, though, play the second half. Like, it could be like the cavalry coming in, like to rescue the day. I think that would be cool, man. Like, you're in trouble now. Just treat them all like they got suspended for the first half or something. And then, the Noles are down 20-6, but here come the starters. Let's see what this is going to be fun. This is going to be a cool, if you're going to only play one half anyway, play the more important of the halves, which is the second half, in my opinion. But again, Miami might have been down 40-0, and then Cam Ward is absolutely not playing the second half if his team is down 40-0. Also, I would like to say this.
Yes.
Before we go, it is, as I watch the end of this game, it is an absolute travesty that the Cleveland Browns play Dorian Thompson-Robinson over Jameis Winston. Okay. I don't understand it, other than they are absolutely tanking and trying to lose games.
They want to get a look at the future, Corey.
That's exactly, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like the future, if that's the future, you might as well just blow up the facility. That kid can't play. He can't play quarterback. Obviously with nobody in it, folks. No, we don't want anybody to get hurt. But just cancel the franchise. Have Art Modell move them somewhere else again. It is crazy that they did that. There's no that kid is not an NFL quarterback, and they knew that. So to say they want and I just feel, and obviously some people know that my wife is a Browns fan, but at least with Jameis, he's entertaining, and he's fun, and he does score points. Now he helps both teams score points, but he's fun and they're entertaining games. They just had their fans come out in that weather to watch them play a not good Dolphins team and lose 20-3. I mean, what do you care about your fans at all? You're not even pretending to try, because there is no planet in this solar system, in this galaxy, where DTR would be a better option to move a football and score points than Jameis Winston. So Jameis can't catch a break, man. Yeah, we'll let you play against the Steelers and the Broncos in the best defenses in the league, and then when we get to play the Dolphins and the Bengals at home, we're going to play this kid that sucks. But anyway, that's my DTR rant for the day. You guys are welcome.
Would Jimmy Carter be on your Mount Rushmore of greatest Georgians, or should I say Stone Mountain of greatest Georgians?
Yeah, you know, that's a much better play. And I did we talk about this on the show, that like if they got rid of the generals on Stone Mountain and put like real Georgians, like Georgia heroes, like who should be on the side of Stone Mountain, I think Jimmy Carter would make the list.
Okay.
And this is not political in any way. It couldn't be. I was a newborn when he was a president. I know nothing about his politics or his term except for the Iran hostages and the oil crisis. That's it. It wasn't a great term, I'll grant that. But what he did after his presidency is should be the blueprint for every president. He was just a very, very good human being, and I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. He is a very good human being, and as a Georgian, I'm proud he's from Georgia, legitimately. And I would love it to be him, Hank Aaron, and maybe Andre
Kirby?
3000
Kirby?
or Big Boy. Kirby's not bad. He's from Georgia, too. Yeah. But I'd say Andre 3000 or Big Boy or Dale Murphy.
Okay.
Somebody like that. Dale Murphy's from Utah, though, but still, he was a star for Atlanta. So, Hank Aaron's I don't know. Jimmy Carter and Hank Aaron are on there for sure, and then we could do one more or five more. I don't care. But yeah, he would definitely be. My mom. I mean, she's getting up there too, but she seemed genuinely upset that he died. It wasn't like it was a surprise.
Yeah, just a good human being, good, decent human being, man.
But he was a part of our lives. I grew up on Jimmy Carter Boulevard.
That's right.
For crying out loud.
That's right.
Lived there for 20 years, so he's been a part of my life as a Georgian for my whole life. So yeah, and it's awesome that he made it to 100. May we all be so lucky.
My goal this offseason is to get Dale Murphy on the pod. And I'm not going to do anything but hit record. That's my goal this offseason, everybody.
Buddy, that would be the thing is, I wouldn't creep him out because I know he's heard all the stories about kids having his poster on their wall, but I did have his poster on my wall, and I love that guy, and he was awesome, and I consider myself lucky as we go out that a lot of people, it's the same thing with Bobby Bowden for Florida State fans. Like Alabama fans love Nick Saban, love him. Florida fans loved what Urban Meyer did. Probably love Steve Spurrier. Those, especially Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, I don't think they're very good people. I just don't. I think Bobby Bowden was a great person.
Yes.
Was a very kind, genuinely nice human being.
Yes. And
it was easy to root for. And that swells you with pride a little bit that that's the guy you get to cheer for. Not the guy that barks at reporters or screams at officials and players all the time, but a genuinely nice human being. The same thing for Dale Murphy. Like growing up with that guy as your sports hero, when he is by all accounts like one of the nicest human beings that's ever lived, it's just it makes you feel it's a cool. Now, I'd like them to win some World Series, but if he wasn't going to do that, he only got to the playoffs once when he was in Atlanta. Not his fault. The fact that he was such a genuinely good person and so easy to cheer for. It's good stuff, man. Hopefully Norvell will end up being that guy.
Amen, brother. Amen. I'm not sure what the schedule is going to look like this week, everybody, with, again, another holiday falling in the middle of all this, back-to-back an eve and then the actual holiday itself. But subscribe to the podcast. Also, somebody brought up they had some problems. The podcast wasn't showing up on Apple Podcasts any longer. It's there. Search for Wake Up Warchant and pick the second one. It's like a linear list. Pick the one that's the second one. It's not ideal.
You can't just get rid of the other one.
I mean, that's
all right.
Anyhow, all right.
Okay.
Stay connected to warchant.com. All the recruiting news. I think the dead period is over. It's a quiet period, but I still think that means that the players can show up on campus. It just means I think it means the coaches can't go visit them, which they don't. It's all about visiting the campuses now for these guys. So check out warchant.com. Matt Lacerra, Michael Langston will have you guys covered on all that. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock, question mark?
Probably, maybe, who knows? Stephanie wanted you to tell Abby that she said hey.
Okay, I will. What do you guys have for dinner over there? They're playing around over there.
Did I just publicize her name? Should I have not done that?
That's fine. No, I think I've said it before. No, I said it before.
All right. No dinner yet. We're not sure. Ribs, probably.
Oh. She's making me caprese salad. Caprese? Caprice?
Caprice.
Caprese?
I think it's caprice salad.
for breakfast, everybody. This is the morning. I forgot, not dinner. This is more.
That's right. We just woke up. I'm having ribs, and he's having a salad.
All right. Let's go attack the day, everybody. Thanks for listening. It's been Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it and take it.